So Heather Hiles was recently featured as Business Insider's 100 Coolest People in Tech right now. She's a former commissioner of the Unified School District of San Francisco, and she's the founder of Pathbrite, an online portfolio aimed at the education market. It's different from web resume services because Pathbrite is as dynamic as Tumblr and Pintrest, and unlike other sites, it actually allows users to own their own information that they're posting. It's no wonder that this program is being adopted in school districts across the country, and why Heather is here today to tell you more. If you now give a big round of applause for Heather Hiles. Hi, good afternoon. How y'all doing? Yeah? Good. Well, happy Saturday. I wanted to, before I talk about myself, I just wanted to give an extra acknowledgement to Mia. I just want to say, your story and what you were willing to do in terms of being yourself and telling your story is so inspiring. We need a lot of people like you, and it's oftentimes really scary to be the one person who's out there and vulnerable. But you've been an activist for social justice, and you're going to continue to do that work for your life, and I'm sure. So I just want to say thank you for that. Yeah. So as Mia mentioned, I founded a software company in 2012, in the beginning of 2012. But I was asked to tell kind of, I guess, the story of how I got here a little bit. I'm much less interested in telling my story as I am in hearing other people's stories, and that's part of what Pathbrite allows people to do. But I will try to give you just a flavor of my background in case it is helpful to anybody. I was raised by a single mom in LA. And the blessing about my childhood is that my mother really accepted and expected me to just be myself. And I've always been, as a kid, as a little girl, I was considered a tomboy. I've always been somebody who likes to build things and break things and be outside. And growing up, I think all my friends were boys because we were just always outside doing stuff. And that was perfectly fine. My mother was comfortable with me just being me. And so as soon as I was making decisions about clothing, off went the dresses and the frilly underwear. And on came the tough skins with the patches in the knees because I was always breaking them open. And so, not much has changed. But what was good about that experience for me was that I was able to and encouraged to be authentic and be in touch with what I needed to do and what I wanted to do. And my mother actually taught me that gay, lesbian, transgender folks were cool before I believed in that. And so that was a real blessing for me too. I was recruited to play basketball at UC Berkeley, and we're doing a lot of, go Cal, yeah. Doing a lot of recruitment tours, and I came up to the Bay Area and fell in love with this place. And I went home to my mom and I said, I don't want to tour any more schools, I don't want to do any more recruitment, I want to go to Cal, that is the place for me. And she said, great. And I said, here's the thing though, I don't want to play basketball. And that was my scholarship, my full ride offer. And what I realized is I didn't want to spend my whole life in a gym, which is what you are when you're an athlete who's a student in college. You're really there because of your athletics. And there were people all over Telegraph Avenue and Sproul Hall protesting stuff. When I went to college, it was against apartheid in South Africa. And so there were all these wonderful, I'd go into cafes, there were people from all over the world like talking over coffee. And I thought, this is for me, I want to be into all this stuff. And if you're in a gym and on a bus and whatever, you're not into any of that. You're at a study table and then you're practicing basketball. So that was my logic. And my other calculation was there was no WNBA at the time, so there's no professional opportunity for me to get caught up and excited about. So my mother's response was, well, then you need to have a job because that's, a full ride is a full ride. And so I ended up having after school, it was a full-time job, working on a tutorial program where we had, this was a nonprofit created by a former Black Panther who had stayed in the Berkeley area and matriculated from Cal. And Break the Cycle had UC Berkeley students tutoring kindergarten through third graders who are already attending poor performing public schools and doing poorly on standardized tests. And it was the model, come to find out many years later, model for a really brilliant, well-run nonprofit organization. What we did in having these UC students tutoring these kids was incredibly effective. I spent a lot of time with their families, helping the kids be more successful in class, and working with the principals and the teachers. And it was just a very effective model. And what it did for me was it set my trajectory and passion, and the thread that runs through all my different professional experiences has been trying to help people realize their personal, academic, or professional goals. And one layer above that is trying to help people be self-actualized. So that's my personal life's work, but we all have different stories about things we want to do in this world. And so I've done a lot of things, helped people get off welfare and get into jobs and serve on school boards and that kind of stuff. But it's just what I really love doing. So I also love having a company where I have employees and I can help them see a vision and hopefully surpass their own expectations of what they do in their jobs. But what I wanted to tell you and invite you all to do is to continue to tell your stories in whatever way you see fit, because just like I think Mia's story was so inspiring to me about people who are willing to stand up for themselves and stand up for others, we all have different stories that really will mean something to someone. And we also know from a learning perspective, and why I built this portfolio software, is that when people tell their stories, a lot of their subconscious achievements become conscious, and they actually improve their own learning outcomes, their own future success, their own metacognition. A lot of good stuff comes from telling your story. In today's digital world, what I will say is that I think that the inclination to blog and reflect out in the digital universe to everybody is not always the best strategy. I actually think that having a private place to reflect and think about and curate your thoughts and your content, and then be thoughtful about what you share with whom, can be really important too. And so it's not like everything you think has to be blasted out there to everybody, but the right positioned story and the right explanation of your experiences can be so helpful and inspiring to people. So the first and foremost benefit of you telling your story will be for yourself. And that's why also with Pathbrite we make sure that people can hold all the content and own their own content and examples of what they've learned and achieved and created. And then you have control over who knows what about you and how they perceive you, how they interpret you, rather than just going on the internet and figuring out what they can figure out about you. So that's enough about software in general. I wondered, and I hope this is okay, but I wondered if any of you all had any questions for me, because I really prefer to try to answer what's top of mind or matters to somebody else rather than just talking. So I don't know, does anyone have any questions that I can answer? Yes. Yeah.
I'm a little curious about like Pathbrite. So like it's an education program, right?
It's a software.
A
yeah.
software program.
It's
So
a
like,
learning and growth software. Yeah.
How does it work? Explain it.
Okay, sure. So what I did, as I said, I've been in the education and workforce development arenas for 25 years now. And about 5 years ago, I learned about this technology that was used in universities called e-portfolios. And e-portfolios, there were studies that proved that people who had e-portfolios, meaning they documented and reflected on what they were learning, had improved learning outcomes, writing proficiencies, critical thinking skills, metacognition, program completion rates, job placement rates. And so I thought, my gosh, why don't we all have e-portfolios? And I looked at the products that were in the market, and they were part of learning management systems, and they were like very Web 1.0 and very miserable and very uninspiring. So I realized what we could do with today's technology is make a modern day web-based portfolio system. And so Pathbrite, we call it a portfolio learning platform, which is a mouthful, but the idea is you all can go to Pathbrite and open free accounts, and any kind of digital artifact or evidence of what you've created, it could be a video clip of giving a talk, could be photos, can be electronic transcripts. Stanford University was the first institution to ask us to bring in transcripts. If you earn a degree from Stanford, can own your transcript and put it in your portfolio. But any kind of digitized content can be in there. And then what you can do is you can make different tailored portfolios that you can share with admissions officers, professors, employers, anybody, or you can post them to Facebook or tweet them out that really showcase maybe a project you worked on, or a capstone or an honors thesis, or whatever it is that you're passionate about. And like I said, the benefit of just having all your content and looking at it and curating it yourself, allowing you to reflect on it, connect the dots between different experiences is valuable. But then it also allows for you to showcase yourself in your terms and in a way that you can curate. So does that, and I sell the software to universities primarily. But we're gonna also be in the corporate space so that people can, the idea is you can have this account for life and it can follow you as a lifelong learner. What we know about people in today's workforce is that we're all more freelancers. My mom had one job, it was the same job for 35 years, and I've had 35 different jobs. I was communications director for Gavin Newsom when he ran for mayor. I started up the software company. I had a professional services consulting firm for 7 years. I've done a lot of different things. I have an MBA, I worked in financial services for a while. So we are all more generalists and building skills as we need them for new challenges, rather than learning one discipline in one industry and doing that for your whole career. And so just as we're just-in-time learners and creators and achievers, we need to continuously tell the story of what we've learned and created that's new. So that in a corporate space, you can imagine, every project I work on, I can tell my supervisor what I've done, and we can both track my own growth within the company. And so that's the idea behind the software. Other kinds of questions? There was somebody over here before, no? Okay, well, I will say that if you guys, what I do, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs typically, and so I usually have office hours once a month that will be online, or our office, Pathbrite, is south of Market here in the city. So if I can ever be of help to someone, you can email me, Heather@Pathbrite, and we could do office hours. So I just want to make myself available to people. I've been out since I was 17, and so I was out at UC Berkeley, and I was in a black sorority, and I was out. And I was a member of CUA for a while, and National Center for Lesbian Rights. And I just think it's so important that we feel safe to be ourselves and to be authentic. And that's something that I take into my business life, but I take it to all of my life. And I think if you can just integrate the different aspects of your life and be able to be your whole selves wherever you are, that's what's so important. So I know you guys have an amazing day today. I know you're all amazing people, and just keep on doing what you do. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for sharing that with us. Our next featured speaker is someone you all probably know very well, Eli Ehrlich.